Welcome, everyone. Appreciate everybody being in attendance today. It's an opportunity for us to discuss the topic of branching out, utilizing some of the common tools that are available to all of us in order to be able to fill in some of the gaps, in our respective family trees. Many of you are probably just like me in your family history research. You've come a long way, but there are still some gaps, and so you're looking for opportunities and ways to be able to kind of knock down those brick walls as they were, to be able to find that next generation of names, to be able to fill in some of the blanks and then discover beyond. As many of you have come to realize, family history is far more than just research. It has become definitely a discovery experience. And so today, I want to walk with you to have a discovery experience. We're going to follow some experiences that I have had in filling in some gaps in my family tree. So let's get into my story. Here again is the fan chart as it appeared a few short months ago. And we're going to highlight and focus on Floyd Henry Quick. So that's my great-grandfather. I knew my great-grandmother, his wife Amy, and while she was still alive as I was a young man. As a little boy, we all lived in Michigan, but somehow or another, all of us sort of migrated west, and we all ended up in Arizona. And that's where I ended up joining the church as a teenager and then getting this interest in family history. Well, my great-grandfather only lived for about 32 years in the early 1900s, and so I never knew him personally. But for some reason, I always had an interest in knowing who he was because my great-grandmother was such a cool person, just full of life. Even in her 90s, when I knew her, she was just active and spunky, and I thought, you know, great-grandpa must have been spunky too to keep up with her. So I want to know more about him. And so throughout the years, I tried to find information, kind of ran into some brick walls, those stopping points. You'd never overcome those hurdles until recently. So here we go. If we put Floyd Henry Quick in the primary position on the fan chart within Family Search, we can see that unlike my fan chart that had several generations, he has nothing. There's nothing there right now. It's just him. We have a few descendants, and if we look closely, one of his children, Ada Caroline Quick, that's my grandmother, my dad's mom. And so I have a link to him, but then that road stops. And so our objective is to walk you through how we can overcome that hurdle. So now if we switch over to the traditional view, another way that you can see that there are holes in your tree is to look for the boxes in that view that don't have names or any other information except for add husband and or add wife. That's where your holes are. That's where your gaps are. That's where your search target becomes. Say, that's my next layer. That's where I'm going to go. That's where I'm going to find next. And we can do that. So the best way to be able to do that is go to the last person in that line. In this case, for me, it's my great-grandfather, Floyd Henry Quick. So I know some information about him from gathering that from my great-grandmother and other documents that were passed to me from all the old paper files that we had as a family. He was born in Michigan, in Mecosta County. He was born in 14th of January, 1901. And he only lived approximately 32 years. Okay, he passed away in an accident while farming. So I have enough to go on to try to find him in these records, to hopefully find a record that will help me locate his parents as well. So there are a number of ways that we can get this information. We're going to highlight 3 initially and then focus on 2 of those because they may be newer to many of you than the third option. Okay? So first of all, we have a newer option within Family Search, which is called Record Hints. So that allows Family Search, when you bring up an ancestor and come to their personal page, their person page, Family Search will dig through the database, and based on the information that you have related to that person, it will go out and kind of crawl through the information and then bring back to you as many solid hits as it can determine are valid. So this is most likely the individual that you're looking for. If hints do not provide you what you need, we also have a research help option that allows you to go in and actually search on a more expansive list of records. And then we have what's always been there in Family Search, the catalog search, which allows you to physically input data, manipulate dates, locations, to narrow your search or widen it out in case that you need to just search a specific type of record or a specific group of records, however you want to do that. For the remainder of our time today, we're just going to focus on options 1 and 2, the record hinting and the searching of the records. So first of all, I've used this term record hinting, just like a hint that your friend might give you. Okay? They're trying to give you a clue as to what an answer might be to a trivia question, or you're playing a game and they're trying to help you figure out how to win. They're just giving you hints. They're not giving you the specific answer. That's the only answer possible. But they're giving you a hint to help you along. And so that's where this particular tool within Family Search comes into play. It allows you to investigate. Go out and see, is this the right, in this instance, is this the right Floyd Henry Quick? Is this the right Floyd Quick? Is this the right family group? Can I gain more information about his family group based on what I've discovered here? So in this instance, hinting gave us 4 options. Within those 4 options, we see a couple of census records, and then we also have a death certificate in there. Now, in that death certificate record, which is the 3rd one down, notice the hint came back and said, well, I have a Floyd H, and I have the right number of letters in the last name, but I'm not quite sure if it's what the last name, if it matches up exactly, but I'm going to give it to you anyway so you can review that record. And we'll talk about that in just a minute as well. So if we were to look at the very first record in the list, just to see if there's information there that will benefit us, we're looking at a 1930 census record. So in the first part of that, now when you're looking at this on FamilySearch.org, you can scroll through this pop-up window. We're limited in this presentation, so I'm going to actually split that into 2 different views on your screen. So the top half of that view allows you to see his name, some general demographic information. But what we're after primarily is that we can now look and see, is this the right Floyd Henry Quick? In this case, I know it is, because in my family tree, I know that Amy is his wife, and then the youngest child in the family is Ada C., who is my grandmother. It's the right area of Michigan, I have the right parents, and I know I have my grandmother mixed in there. So I know I have the right family. The interesting thing here is there are more children listed than I had in my family tree. So when you look at hints, you many times will discover, hey, there's some information here that doesn't match exactly what I have already. So again, here we go. We have another side avenue that we could pursue later. But for right now, we're trying to see if we can find the parents of Floyd Henry. So I make a note in my files of, hey, additional children listed in the 1930 census. I mark that item, that source, and then I can be able to come back to that later and fill in the blanks. You also have an option with these. When you're investigating the hints in the records, you bring the pop-up windows up. You have an option to either review that specific record, and then if you know it's the right record, you can attach that to the individual to create a larger source pool to validate your findings. And you can also, what's highlighted here on the screen, view the image. So that view option allows you to actually, and this is something I like to do personally because I'm a bit of a history buff and I like to see old records and handwriting, whether I can interpret it or not. So I like to click on the view image button just to see what it looked like. Could the census taker actually write legibly? Do we have the right information here? Is it similar to other census records? Are we getting the right places and birth dates and birth ranges and birth locations, so on and so forth? And then I bring up, so that you can see highlighted, I've identified Floyd Henry. I look at the information, and I can also see some things here. Their ages when they were married, some census records will have that. Their birth locations. It will also provide the birth locations of their parents, which could give me a clue to be able to finding them as I continue my search. So that's one option that you have. You can look at census records through the hinting. And then the one that I wanted to bring back to your attention specifically is just because in a hint, if a name is not spelled exactly like you have it, or exactly like Family Search has it listed on that person page, don't just ignore it. I'm about to show you that by investigating that seemingly misspelled and incorrect last name, I actually find the information that I'm looking for the right person. So on this record, which we think is Floyd H. Onich, interestingly enough, right number of letters. H's can be mistaken for K's. U's can be flipped upside down and turned into N's when you're transcribing handwriting. So you start putting those pieces together and you think, wow, this might have actually been written quick, but whoever transcribed or indexed this maybe just had the wrong fingers on the wrong keys and it came in differently. So it's worth investigating. So we draw that out and we say, well, we have onich here. We line up all of our letters. And then, whoops, I think I went too far. And then in the background of this particular screen, I think, okay, how am I supposed to know if onich is just misspelled? Well, lucky for me, I think back to my, and I shared this briefly, the birth date of my great-grandfather, 14th January 1901. I look at this record, and lo and behold, this death record, it has the right birth location, the right county in Michigan, the exact birth date that I know I have that's valid, and lo and behold, at the bottom of this record, I see the names of his parents. Incredibly random, you might think. I don't think it's incredibly random per se. I think indexing is an inspired way to help us be able to find these people. Without this hint, I'm not sure that I would have been able to locate my great-great-grandparents. So with that, so there's one way that we can find information. Again, number 2 from the list that we highlighted earlier in the red boxes, research help. If the hints don't really give you what you need, or they might be a little scant, or maybe they're just not giving you enough information or a variety of records, you can come to the research help area. And on that screen, you will get a general list based off of all the information you have in your family tree for that person. Now you're getting basically all the general records that exist for that person, as specific as can be, branching out into possible records. So in looking at this, we see 3 opportunities here at the top of the list for Floyd Quick. We have a Floyd H. Quick with a period, we have a Floyd H. Quick without a period in the middle name, and then we also have just a Floyd Quick. 2 of those are census, 1 of those is a marriage record. We know that the top record is identical to the one we already looked at in the hints because we see the children's names, we see the census year, we see the spouse name, we know it matches up. Of particular interest now are the next 2 down the row. We know Floyd lived from 1901 to approximately 1932. We know his wife's name was Amy. We know that he died in 1931, late 1931, early 1932 from the death record, and we have at least parents' names in general. Okay? It could be a nickname. We had a misspelling from the last name on that record. So we have a foundation. We're looking for a George. We're looking for a Caroline. And then we're trying to identify if that matches up. Interestingly enough, in this record list, item number 2 is a marriage record that contains similar names to what the death record did. Okay, we get the same last names. We get the same last name for the maiden name for the mother of Sturgis. That's a main key right there. That's a link. But we see here on the marriage record that the first names are more like nicknames. We have a Bert instead of a George. We have Carrie instead of Caroline. So we're trying to make sure that that's correct. So the third record down in this instance actually helps us identify that. Now we have another census record where Floyd is actually a child and not a head of a household. So in looking at who is the head of the household, we get a George A. Quick and a Caroline Quick. We're starting to match up first names. We also see in that census record, it's the right location in Michigan, it's the right region, the right years, the right ages for Floyd. The names are matching up for the parents, and so we're beginning to put the pieces together and verifying that we have the right people. So in order to get more investigative in this, you have 2 options from the search record spot. The icon on the left is a little document. There we go. I was thinking photo, but that's the one on the right. The document icon on the left allows you to actually go into the record and see it in similar fashion as what we did in the hint. When we clicked on a census record, it'll just give us detailed information on the screen of what's there. The image on the right of the camera allows you to, again, go in and view the actual image where this information came from. So if we were to click on the marriage record and click on the document icon, this is what we would see. Just so that we have it all laid out, spelled out easily for us to read on the screen. We get his name, we get his age, we get his birth year, his place, we get my great-grandmother's name. So again, we know we have the right couple here. We get her age, we get their marriage date, which for a long time I did not have, so this actually filled in a blank for me. It was an approximation in my family tree. Now I have a specific date. See all the things you learn as you do these things? We get the right location, and interestingly enough, as a little boy, I lived in Barreton for a number of years, and just had fun playing in the fields and actually going to the farm that great-grandpa Floyd and great-grandpa Amy owned for a number of years before she moved west. Just an amazing connection now has been formed because I realized that as a little boy, I played in the same farm where he worked every day. And now I get this personal connection seeing his marriage record. But the key thing here again in our story, right, is that we're looking for Floyd's parents. Did we find Floyd's parents? Now we look and say, do we know we have the right couple? Yes, we do, because even if we go back to our family tree, in my instance, I know the names of the parents of Amy Goodspeed, who is my great-grandmother. I know my great-great-grandparents on that side of the family. I know their names and information. I have just validated, looking at this record, that I have Charles Goodspeed and I have Ada Tillman in my family tree. So I know I have the right couple. So now I got to figure out, is Bert Quick and Carrie Sturgis, are they the right ones? Well, then we can link back to that other census record, validate locations, ages, time, and validate that these indeed are. Carrie is Caroline's nickname, and Bert is what George Albertus Quick went by as his short name amongst friends and on records such as this. So again, an opportunity. I can't resist. I click on the document image to see the information, and then I have to go see what it looked like when whoever was the county scribe was filling in the blanks. So I can look at that page and I can see all of the information from that marriage. And I learned something very interesting too. In my growing up years, I was under the impression from family stories that my great-grandfather Floyd was my great-grandma Amy's first husband. That is incorrect. He was actually her second husband. And so I learned the name of her first husband here from this record that tells me that she was married once before, and her married name was Darnell. Now I'm beginning to go back to that side story of earlier with those additional children on the census record, and I realized that they were probably adopted under the Quick name, but their biological father is going to have a different last name. So now I have another adventure to go on and fill in more blanks. Exciting, exciting stuff. I'm sure they weren't thinking in 1923 when they were married, hey, somebody's going to index this one day on a computer, and our great-grandson and great-great-grandson are going to find our names, and then he's going to take those names to the temple, and we're going to receive the blessings. I'm sure that did not go through their minds, but it can go through our minds today, and it ought to go through our minds today that these records are preserved for that very purpose, not just to find them and to fill in our family tree, but to take those names to the temple, and as we have that experience, go back and teach someone else to do the same thing. So now briefly, outside of Family Search, another tool that I want to make you aware of, findagrave.com. Over 121 million different headstones have been photographed and or memorialized, so you can get information, not just the image. For example, on Floyd Henry Quick's memorial on this website, I not only learned the name of the cemetery where he's buried in which county, but I also have a little blurb and a memorial from his ancestors or a related ancestor that gives me some clues as to the Darnell side of things and how they all come together. And so it's very interesting that I now begin another adventure instantaneously to wrapping up the adventure that I've just had in finding my great-great-grandparents. Now I know I have to come over and find some great aunts and uncles as well and get them into the tree and figure out how they fit and how their lives went and how I can best serve them as well. So you have findagrave.com, and there will be others that you can search related to that, memorializing headstones around the globe so that you can use those as a resource as well. So remember, or look back, when I first showed you the fan chart view with Floyd Henry Quick in the primary position, there was nothing in his ancestry line. I didn't know his parents' names, father or mother. I only had his wife and his 3 children. Through using the research hints, searching the records expansively through that, and periodically jumping into the old catalog to be able to see what might have been there already. Not only did I find his parents, but in the last few months, I've gone 3 full generations, plus much of the 4th generation past my great-grandfather, simply because I'm researching the names in a real easy way on FamilySearch.org. How does that happen? Again, we link back to indexing. It's all one combined work, my friends. It is just one giant opportunity for all of us to participate on many different levels. You've been in this class because you already have some family names in your tree. You're looking to fill in some of those direct lines. It won't take you long to fill in enough of those direct lines to realize then you're going to have to switch out to a different research tactic and come into the cousin lines, which we call descendancy, which is a whole nother opportunity for you to learn from. But these are opportunities that when we have this experience, our first inclination should be like Lehi in Lehi's dream in the Book of Mormon. When he partook of the fruit, the first thing he wanted to do was share that with his family. This should be the same with us. When we find a name, even just one name in our family tree, our first inclination ought to be to go out and share that with somebody we love. And they may trigger a memory. They may start telling stories. They may provide us with more vital information. We don't know. Until we engage in that activity, we just don't know. So my encouragement to all of you is to follow the process outlined by Elder Cook. Go out and find a name. Just one name. Target one name. Find a name. When you find that name, take that name to the temple. When you take that name to the temple, come back and teach someone else the same process. Teach them the basic tools that are here. They're just laying at our feet. We have to go and use them. As we use them, they will provide more names for us. We will fill in our family trees. We will complete our divinely appointed duty to not only find our ancestors, but to take them to the temple and bring the blessings to them that we enjoy in our lives today. Thank you for your time.